up alliances around the world, and that's a positive thing. I think with respect to this particular region, the elevation of importance of the Quad is an important component. I think U.S. support for vaccine delivery in Taiwan has been very positive, as well as vaccine delivery around the world. We're the most generous donor of vaccines. That's a good thing. And I think the announcement of a more potent Indo-Pacific partnership between the U.S., Australia, and the United Kingdom is positive. But now my critique and my question, I have yet to get an answer from the administration about why that particular partnership, U.S., Australia, UK, blindsided France, or at least was perceived to have been blindsiding France. Since France is an ally and France is an Indo-Pacific nation, it would seem like we would want to include France in our efforts in the Indo-Pacific, that would be a real positive, and instead the U.S., Australia, UK partnership around submarines was perceived to be blindsiding France and left France out of something that I think it would be in our interest and other nations in the region for France to be included. So I want to ask each of you from the DOD perspective, from the state perspective, were you individually involved in crafting this U.S., UK, Australia partnership around submarines, and if so, why wasn't France included? If I could start with you, Dr. Ratner, from the defense side.
Sure, Senator. The answer to your last question is yes, I was involved in the latter stage of the negotiations. They had been underway for several months by the time I was confirmed, but I did participate in the final development of the MOUs and some of the other elements of the AUKUS agreement. I guess what I would say there is it is a particular agreement around three sets of countries which have and is very particular to the strategic context and as well as our existent bilateral cooperation with each. And as it relates to the question of France, one of the reasons why the negotiations were so secret is because of the sensitivity of the subject. And I guess I'll leave it to the Australians to explain their own engagement with the French on the question of their own submarine deal.
But you would agree with me, wouldn't you, that France is an Indo-Pacific country?
Absolutely, Senator, and we
France
are actively...
and France is a great military ally of the United States.
They are, and I have met
and
with...
if we want to be, engaged with allies in the Indo-Pacific in a way that will support other allies like Taiwan and potentially be a bit of a deterrent to China, the involvement of France in those efforts would be a positive, correct?
It is a positive. It is existent. We engage with them on defense issues in the Indo-Pacific, and we look forward to doing even more of that into the future. They are a resident power in the Indo-Pacific. They have their own important
But I gather from your answer that you were involved in negotiations between three nations. France was not part of those negotiations, and the U.S. expectation was that Australia would somehow give notice to France about what was going on at the appropriate time.
Senator, my own conception of the AUKUS agreement that is complementary to what is a very diverse set of security relationships and arrangements in the Indo-Pacific and globally. So we have AUKUS, we have the Quad, as you mentioned. We have a number of trilateral arrangements with the Japanese and the Koreans, with the Australians and the Japanese. We, of course, have our approach to ASEAN, and these are meant to be complementary. None is meant to be exclusive of the other.
Let me ask you, Mr. Ambassador, were you involved from the State Department side in discussions about the AUKUS framework or agreement, and why was France blindsided, and shouldn't we be including France in Indo-Pacific alliance efforts?
Thank you, Senator. All of that happened, Senator, before I was confirmed and sworn in. But I would say that, as you outlined, I think the progress made by the Quad and the announcement of the AUKUS agreement, I think these are very significant strategic moves that contribute to peace and stability across the region. I think the President has stated publicly that the rollout in particular could have been handled better. And I think you've seen the administration take a number of steps, even since I have been in this position, to engage intensively with our French allies and our EU partners to recognize their critical role in the region. We recognize it, we value it, and we're in touch on a regular basis how to advance our shared interests.
Thank you. I've exceeded my time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Senator Markey.